In this video, we are going to be talking about different types of addition and subtraction story problem types. So when we are talking about story problems, or if we just think about a addition or subtraction problem in general, so let's just say I wanted to do something simple like 3 plus 2 equals 5. If I were to write those into word problems, there's 3 different ways that I could represent that situation. So maybe I have a word problem that says something like, I have 3 apples, my friend has 2 apples, so altogether, how many do we have total? So that could be represented as the situation 3 plus 2 equals something. Or I could take the same fact family and say, I have 3 apples, I got some more. If I have 5 total, how many more did I get? So in this case, we have the 2 quantity missing. And then finally, I could give a situation where I say, I have some number of apples to start with. I get 2 more from a friend. Now I have 5. So how many did I have to start with? So again, for any fact family, so any 3 numbers that we can write into an addition problem, or the same with subtraction, we could write them in 3 different ways, where we are either missing the result, we are missing the change, or we are missing the starting number. Okay, so if you take a look on page 41, there is a chart explaining these math story problem types. So there are 4 different kinds. So we want to start with join problems. So join problems are where you have one quantity, and then you have a second quantity, and you are putting them together. So there's some sort of exchange, or you are gaining something from somebody else. So in that case, we have join problems where the result is unknown. So just like my example I just did. We have join problems where the change is unknown. And then we have join problems where we don't know the starting number. And then here are some examples that you can read of word problems that correspond to each of those. In terms of subtraction, it's going to work the same way. So there should be 3 different ways that we can subtract. So we have separate problems. So separate is when we are taking away. So there is some sort of, again, exchange taking place. So we can separate where the result is unknown. So for example, I had, Mr. Smith had 7 cookies. He gave 4 of them to Susie. How many does he have left? So we don't know the end result. We can write a subtraction problem where we don't know the change. So Mr. Smith had 5 cookies. He gave some away to Susie. If he has 1 left, how many does he have, or how many did he give to Susie? So that would be the change. And then separate where the start is unknown. So you had some number of cookies. You gave 4 to Susie. You have 4 left. So how many did you start with? So join and separate problems are the first 2 types. We also have part whole problems. So part whole problems are usually done where it involves only one person, and they have some quantity of things that are split into 2 parts. And usually it's some distinction is being made, something specific about the items that they have. So if you look here above, we are just talking about cookies, cookies, cookies. But if you notice in the part whole examples, now we have white cookies and pink cookies, and pink cookies and white cookies. So we've given them a color to distinguish them a little bit more than just saying like regular old cookies. So now we have the white part and we have the pink part. So with part whole problems, again, you can either not know the whole total, or you could not know one of the parts. So in this case, Mr. Smith has 6 white cookies and 3 pink cookies. So how many does he have all together? So 6 plus 3, we don't know the total, or the whole is unknown. And then for part whole, you can either think of them in terms of addition, or you would probably solve this through subtraction. So either way. So Mr. Smith had 7 cookies. If 4 of them were pink and the rest were white, how many were white? So 4 plus how many more would make a grand total of 7? Or if you take the total minus the 4 pink cookies, then you are left with the white cookies. Okay. And then comparison problems are the last type. So in comparison problems, we usually have 2 different people, and we are just comparing who has a larger amount or a smaller amount. So they are not exchanging hands. So in join, that's when you give something to somebody else. In separate, or I should say in joining, you are gaining something from somebody else. In separate problems, you are giving away something. So with comparison problems, there is no exchanging of, in this case, cookies. We're just seeing who has a larger amount or a smaller amount, or the difference between them. So for example, Mr. Smith had 5 cookies, Susie had 3 cookies. How many more does Mr. Smith have than Susie? So he would have to have 2 more than her. For comparison, let's see, quantity unknown. So Mr. Smith had 3 cookies. Susie had 2 more than Mr. Smith. So how many cookies did Susie have? So for me, it's hard to remember the word quantity and then over here the word referent. So instead, I would just like to call this the larger quantity is unknown. And then over here with the other one, the smaller quantity is unknown. Okay, so it's easier to remember if you just think larger, smaller than quantity and referent. So if you're comparing 2 quantities, one person is going to have more than the other person. So they would be the larger amount, and they would the other person would be the smaller. So if Mr. Smith had 3 cookies, but Susie has more than him, Susie would be the larger quantity, and Mr. Smith would be the smaller. Now you could flip that around. If Mr. Smith had 8 cookies, and he had 5 more than Susie, how many does Susie have? Well, now, in this case, Mr. Smith has more than Susie, so she would be the smaller amount. Okay. And then I've scribbled this out because we have another table later in our course pack that actually talks about multiplying and dividing. So I am scribbling out that for now. That is actually in the next video you are going to watch. Okay, so I want to take a look at some examples. So looking at page 40, can we identify our word problem types? Okay, so again, this is page 40, kind of have it zoomed in. So again, we have the different problem types. So we have join problems, separate problems, part, whole, or compare. And then we also want to know what the unknown is. Okay, so we're just going to look at these one at a time. So maybe you guys try them on your own, see if you can identify them on page 40. And then, so pause the video, try those out, and then when you're done, unpause the video, and we will check our answers. Okay, so with number 1, Connie had 5 marbles. Juan gave her 8 more marbles. So if Juan is giving her marbles, she's gaining something, that will be a join problem. And then the question is, how many marbles does Connie have altogether? So we know she started with 5, and then she got 8 more. So we are looking for the end result. So this one is result unknown. Okay. For number 2, Connie had 13 marbles. She gave 5 marbles to Juan. So if she is giving away marbles, that should tip you off that it is a separate problem. And then what do we not know? Do we know what she started with? Yes. Do we know how it's changing? Yes, she gave 5 away. So we are looking for the difference or the end result. So again, result unknown. Okay. Oh, and let me check these off as we do them. Let's see, so separate result. All right. Connie had 13 marbles. She gave some to Juan. So again, if she's giving marbles away, that should clue you in that it is a separate problem. And what do we not know? So we know she started with 13. We don't know how many she's giving away, but we know the end result that she's left with 5. So the thing we don't know is the change. So change is unknown. Okay, so check that one off. All right, number 4. Connie has 13 marbles. Juan has 5 marbles. How many more marbles does Connie have than Juan? So in this case, they are not exchanging marbles. Juan isn't giving any to Connie. Connie isn't giving any marbles to Juan. So that should clue you in that this is a comparison problem. So I'm just going to write compare. And then what do we not know? So Connie has 13, Juan has 5. So Connie has the larger amount, Juan has the smaller amount. So the thing we don't know is the difference between them, like how many more she actually has. So this one would be difference unknown. Okay. Number 5. Connie has 5 red marbles and 8 blue marbles. How many marbles does she have? So key here is now they're not just regular old marbles, they're suddenly red and blue. So the colors should tip you off that this is a part whole problem. And what do we not know? One of the parts or the whole? So we know both parts. 5 is the red part, 8 is the blue part. So we're trying to find the total. So we do not know the whole, the grand total. So whole is unknown for number 5. For number 6, Connie had some marbles. Juan gave her 5 more. So if she's gaining marbles from Juan, that is a tip-off. It's a join problem. And what do we not know? We do not know how many she started with. We know it changed. It went up by 5, and in the end, she had 13. And here's another clue. The question says, how many marbles did she have to start with? So that should tell you this one is a start unknown. So join with the start unknown. Okay. Number 7, Connie had 13 marbles. 5 are red and the rest are blue. How many blue marbles does Connie have? So again, the clue, they're red and blue, and there's only one person. Juan is not in this problem, so that is a part whole. And this time we do not know the blue part. We know the red part and we know the total. So this is part whole with the part unknown. Okay, check that one off. All right, how about number 8? Juan has 5 marbles. Connie has 8 more than Juan. How many more marbles does Connie have? So no marbles are exchanging hands. So that should clue you in it's a comparison problem. And then let's see, we're trying to figure out how much Connie has, and Connie has more than Juan, so Connie has to be the larger amount. So this would be the larger unknown. Okay. Number 9, Connie has 13 marbles. She has 5 more marbles than Juan. How many marbles does Juan have? So again, no marbles are exchanging hands. We are simply comparing their two quantities. And in this case, we need to know how many Juan has, and we know Connie has more than Juan, so that means Juan has to be the smaller amount. So compare with the smaller unknown. Check that one off. Okay. Number 10, Connie has 5 marbles. How many more marbles does she need to have 13 altogether? So you may think that this is part whole because there's only one person. So I said that typically happens. But in this case, it wouldn't be part whole because we just have regular old marbles. So it's not like divided into two distinct parts. So if Connie has 5, she needs to gain some more marbles. So this is actually going to be a join problem because she needs to get more from somewhere. So the thing we don't know, we know she starts with 5. So how many more does she need to add in order to get 13 total? So this would be the change being unknown. Okay. And then lastly, number 11, Connie had some marbles. She gave 5 to Juan. So in this case, she's giving them away. So that is a separate problem. And what do we not know? We don't know how many she started with. We know the change. It went down by 5. And we know the end result of 8. So this is a separate with the start unknown. Okay. So hopefully when you checked your answers with mine, you got these all correct. And they make sense of why they are what they are. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do this for homework. So if you flip to page 43, you will see some addition and subtraction word problems. So it's on page 43, but then it also continues to the back on page 44. So there are 23 of them. So these are problems that were written by former Math 201 students of mine. So I just passed out some note cards and then they wrote their own word problems. So for each of these, you need to first identify the type. So is it a join problem? Is it a separate problem? Is it a part whole? Or is it a comparison? And then you also need to include what the unknown is. So is it the start unknown, the change unknown, the result unknown? Is it a part unknown, a whole unknown, difference unknown, larger amount unknown, smaller amount unknown? So whichever particular type it is. Also say the unknown. Okay. All right, so then in the next video, we are going to look at multiplication and division word problem types.